So we are starting with chapter 6, which is Anatomy and Morphology of Frog, Animal Anatomy and Morphology part 2, and that entirely explains the animal of frog. So let us see the morphology and anatomy of it. Now first is, let us see the introduction of the frog. We have already studied that in semester 1, but frog belongs to the class Amphibia, that we all know. This is a class which includes the animal which can live both on land as well as in water. So as frog can live in both, it is included in Amphibia. As Amphibia is the first class of the tetrapod family, so we can also say that frogs are also the first tetrapods. Basically, they have evolved after fishes, or else we can say that they have the characters after fishes and before reptiles. So basically, they are linking somewhere between fishes and reptiles. Then they have, they are said to be fish-like ancestors. There is an entire classification of the frog given to us. Let us see that. This is the systemic position. First, phylum. The phylum of the frog is Chordate. Then is subphylum. Subphylum is Vertebrate. Then comes division. Division is Gnathostomata. Then comes class. Class is Amphibia, as we know, as it can live both on land as well as water. Then comes order, which is Ennura. Then comes genus. As we know, the binomial nomenclature of frog is Rana, Tigrina, L. So first word would be the name of genus. So first word is Rana. So Rana is the genus name. And second is of species. So Tigrina is the species name. So this is the systemic position of frog in the classification chart. Now let us see the characteristic of the frog. The very first characteristic of the frog is that they are the Indian bullfrog, which is a very commonly found species in India. That animal is carnivorous. That means it will eat the animals which are smaller to them. On the contrary, it will have the threat from the animals which are larger to them, because they will be eating up the frog as their food, which can include man, the snakes, the larger birds, anything like that. So they are eating up the smaller animals and they are the food of the larger animals, which is normally the cycle of the food chain. They usually live in, or I can say near water. They have usually dormancy in winter and summer season. The dormancy of winter is called as hibernation. That is, they go in resting condition during this period. And in summer, it is called as estivation. So they are totally in dormant period during this. They are only active in the monsoon season. Then they have the capacity to change the body color. That is what we call as a camouflage property, and by changing the body color, they will help themselves to protect from the prey. That is the one which will come to eat them. By changing the color, the prey can be distracted for some amount of time, so they can easily go away from there and protect themselves. So these are the characteristics. Now let us see the external morphology of the frog. Now frog is particularly the organism which doesn't have the same size. The size of the frog will vary, and that vary according to the age of the frog even in the same species. But as the age increases, the size of the frog increases. They have a streamlined body, and a streamlined body in any of the case will, if it is an aquatic organism, then it will help in them to swim easily in water. If it's a aerial organism, then it will help them in flying. As it's an aquatic one, the streamlined body of the frog will help them in swimming purpose. If we say the color, then the color of the frog on the dorsal side it is dark green, and on that side they also have black spots. If you must have seen the the picture of the frog, you will see the dorsal part, that is the above part of the body, will be dark green in color with black spots on them, and the ventral part would be lighter in color, usually pale yellow color, and that won't have any dark spots in them. So this is about the color of the body. Now usually the body of the frog is divided into two parts, which is, as it is a part of vertebrate, it should ideally divide it into four parts, which is head, neck, trunk and tail. But over here it is only divided into two parts, that is head and trunk. Through neck and the tail, both the things are absent in case of frog. As you can see, this is the diagram for the external morphology of the frog. Let us see few more characters. Now we know that the body of the frog is divided into two parts, which is head and the trunk portion. So let us see what does it has in both of them. First, head. The head portion is having various things in that. First of all, the most anterior part of the head will have mouth. Sorry, pattern. Okay, so we are starting up with the head. The most anterior part of the head consists of a snout, which consists of two nostrils, and they have two nostrils, and on the lateral side we have two proputed eyes. When I say proputed means bulged eyes. So you must have seen that frogs have very big eyes which are proputing outside. So they have, on the most anterior side, they have snout, they have nostrils, and they have two laterally proputed eyes. Then if we see on the mid-dorsal line, between the two eyes, basically, they are having an area called brow spot. Then middle ear is basically represented, it would be on the sides, and it is usually represented by the tympanic membrane. They won't be having external ear present in them. It will start with the middle ear, which is usually represented by a tympanic membrane, and on the ventral side of the head area, you will find a wide mouth present. They have a very wide mouth as compared to any other organism. So this is all about the parts of head. Next comes trunk part. Trunk is usually divided into, they have two pairs of limbs. First is the above parts are called as forelimb and the below parts are called as hind limbs. Forelimbs are usually shorter and they have 4 digits. Now digits over there means the finger. As we have 4 fingers and 1 thumb, in the forelimbs of frog they have 4 digits. And in the hind limbs they are usually longer and they have 5 toes. Okay, and all the 5 toes are connected with each other by web. That means you can say that the toes are webbed, and those web will help them in swimming. So this is the external morphology of the frog. They also show sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism means the male and the female individual are morphologically different. That is called sexual dimorphism. So let us see what are the different characters they have. Now nuptial pads, they are usually present in the index finger. over here almost in the frog. In the index finger, in males only, at the end of both the index finger, they'll have a nuptial pad. This nuptial pad usually helps them to grab the female at the time of physical contact. On the contrary, vocal sac, they are present only in males. You must be knowing a typical sound that the frog makes. That sound can only be made by the male frog, because the sound producing sac, which are the vocal sac, they are only present in male, not in female. In the breeding season, when they are breeding, the male will change their color to dark yellow. No such color change will be there in females. The abdominal cavity of the male would be very narrow one and the flat one. On the contrary, that of female would be very broad and bulged one. The reason is that they have to bear the eggs which will give birth to the new individuals. So this is the sexual difference. You have been given the diagrams for the same. See, this is the diagram of the male and the female frog, and you can see the presence and absence of the characters. Now, let us see the skin of the frog. This is the diagram, a vertical section for the skin of the frog. Usually the skin of the frog is very moist because it is living many time in water. It is smooth, it is slimy, and as we know, it is a part of frog, and it's a part of amphibia, and amphibians doesn't have any exoskeleton. So frog even doesn't have any exoskeleton on their body. Usually the layers, as you can see in the diagram, there are two main layers in the vertical section of a skin. The outermost layer, the upper part what you are seeing, that is called epidermis, and the below entire part what you are seeing in the diagram is the dermis part. Now let us see what do they have in each of them. Now let us first see about epidermis. Okay, so let us first see about the upper layer of the skin, which is epidermis. Now epidermis is divided again into two layers. The outer layer is called stratum. Stratum means the layer. So outer layer is called stratum corneum, and the inner layer is called stratum germinativum. So outer layer is corneum and inner layer is germinativa. Now basically corneum is a layer of dead cells. Usually the entire epidermis layer is made up of various layers of epidermal cells. Out of that, the outermost layer, which is stratum corneum, is usually single layer cell, and that is the layer of dead cells. So whatever cells which has been used up, because of the wear and tear, they will be forming the outermost layer, which will be removed periodically, and that layer of dead cell which has been removed periodically, that is called stratum corneum. Inner to that will be few layers of stratum germinativum, which is made up of columnar cells, and this layer will be dividing and adding new cells. They will always divide and will be adding new cells, so that whatever cells which have been periodically removed by corneum could be replaced by the new cells. So these are the two layers of epidermis. Now let us see another layer. Now the next inner layer, outermost layer of the skin was epidermis, inner layer is dermis. So let us see the layer of dermis. Again, dermis is divided into two areas. The outer layer is called stratum spongiosum and inner layer is called stratum compactum. So these are the two layers of the dermis area. Now stratum spongiosum, which is the outer layer, it is basically having loose network of connective tissue, blood vessels and mucus gland. These are the stuff which are present in the stratum spongiosum. They also have a single layer of chromatophores, and these are the one which is responsible for the change in the color, particularly during the male frog. inner layer consists of, as from the name only you can say spongiosum. Then this layer will have a large amount of air spaces between them, which will make the layer loose one. It won't be a very solid network over here in this layer. On the contrary, there is a very solid network of the nerves and the capillaries present in the next layer, which is inner layer, stratum compactum. It is made up of dense connective tissue, blood vessels, nerves, and smooth muscle fibers. And as from the name, they are very compactly arranged. You must have seen in the diagram too. They are very compactly arranged with very little intercellular spaces or interfiber spaces in between, and that makes the layer very compact. So this is the structure of the skin. Next, let us see the function of the skin. Usually skin has 5 main functions in frog. The first function is that they are providing shape and texture to the body. So the particular shape and texture of the body of frog is because of the skin. Second is that they are protecting the body against foreign bodies and fungi. Third, they are important respiratory organ. Fourth, they are important sensory organ. You know, the various things could be sensed in the frog with the help of skin. And fifth, frog never drinks water, but it always absorbs water, and that absorption of water is through skin. So these are the 5 main functions of the skin. So this is all about the morphology of the frog. So we are starting with the anatomical structure. Now anatomical structure of frog includes various systems, which can include digestive system, reproductive system, respiratory system, urinogenital system, circulatory system, etc. So various systems are included in the anatomical structure of frog. Let us start one by one. First we will start with digestive system. Digestive system is mainly made up of alimentary canal and digestive glands, which includes liver and pancreas. Alimentary canal starts with mouth, further goes into buccal cavity, then to pharynx, then to esophagus, then to stomach, to small and the large intestine, finally to cloaca. So this is how the alimentary canal goes. Let us see each and every part one by one. Starting with the alimentary canal. The first part of alimentary canal is mouth. We know that mouth is located on a wide mouth is there in the frog, which is located on the ventral side of the head part. Now it is usually having, covered with the jaws, both upper and lower jaw. Usually teeth are there, but teeth are lined up only in the upper jaw. There is no teeth in the lower jaw. Between both the jaws you will find a cavity which is called as buccal cavity, and all the rest of the parts are present in the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is having various types of teeth like maxillary teeth, vomerine teeth. Then they have, these are the 2 types of teeth which are usually present in them. The maxillary teeth and the vomerine teeth are basically used for chewing and grabbing, not exactly chewing but grabbing and preventing the escape of the prey from the buccal cavity. Then they have internal nostrils. They are located towards, not towards, I can say it is located near the vomerine teeth. Then they have in-bulging eyeballs. Now, we have seen in the morphology of the frog that they were having two protruded eyes on the anterior part of the body. Now, that two protruded, the amount of protrusion which is there, that is amount of bulgeness which is there on the outer side, is the same amount of bulgeness what is there on the inner side, which will be coming inside the buccal cavity. So that's the reason they have written in-bulging eyeballs. On the inner side there is also the bulge present in the eyeballs, and usually that will be there at the roof of the buccal cavity, and that in-bulging eyeballs, so whenever they are blinking their eyes, this in-bulging eyeballs will be blinking too, and by that they will help in swallowing the food. Yes, this is a very peculiar characteristic of the frog, that by blinking the eyes they will undergo the contraction of the in-bulging eyeballs, and that will help them in swallowing the food. So that is about the in-bulging eyeballs. Then they also have eustachian aperture. Then in the male frog, as we know, in the roof of the buccal cavity, they will be having vocal sac at the roof, and that vocal sac will help them in producing the sound, and that sound is helping them to call the female for breeding in the breeding season. So that is the opening, and finally they have a bifid tongue. Now, tongue is very much like our tongue, that is, it is a very muscular folded structure. Stop. And bifid tongue. Bifid tongue is usually connected on the posterior side. It is free, as we have, and at the anterior side it is connected one. Again, as we have, and it's a very muscular, long and very folded structure which will help them to flick out and to capture the prey. So that is about the buccal cavity. Now this buccal cavity will further, that is in the posterior part of the buccal cavity, there will be the presence of pharynx. Now pharynx cannot be demarcated . It cannot be demarcated from the esophagus, because of the absence of neck. As neck is not present, pharynx and esophagus cannot be differentiated from each other, and that's the reason they are together said to be buccopharyngeal cavity. So this is all about alimentary canal up to pharynx. Now this pharynx will open up. Now see, this is the entire area of buccopharyngeal cavity in the frog. This is how the diagram is. Now this pharynx will open up into a region called esophagus. Esophagus is short, wide, muscular, and I can say highly distensible tube. It can stretch a lot, and this esophagus will open up into stomach. Now next part of the alimentary canal is stomach. Stomach is basically present on the left side of the body. Stomach is a very large, broad and a slightly curved structure. It is usually divided into two parts. The anterior broad part of the stomach is called as cardiac stomach, and the posterior narrow part of the stomach is called as pyloric stomach. So there are basically two parts of stomach. First is the anterior most is the cardiac stomach, and the posterior one is the pyloric one. Now pyloric stomach has a valve which is called as pyloric sphincter valve. Now this is the valve which will govern the opening and closing of the stomach. So basically when the food enters into the stomach, it will be storing the food and it can enter to further part by the opening of this pyloric sphincter valve. In stomach, the digestion of the food will start, and it is the place for partial digestion of proteins. Stomach is basically the area which is secreting gastric juices, and those contain pepsinogen enzyme. They contain dilute hydrochloric acid, which is HCl, and mucus, which is secreted from the mucus gland. So this is the part of stomach. Stomach will further open into small intestine. There are two parts of small intestine. The anterior part of the small intestine is called duodenum, and the posterior part of small intestine is called ileum. So if we talk about duodenum, then duodenum is running parallel to the stomach, and it will form a U-shape, parallel to stomach, and it will form a U-shaped structure in, like when it runs parallel to the stomach, it forms a U-shaped structure to them. Duodenum is a place where it will have the hepatopancreatic duct. From liver and pancreas, which will carry the bile juice from liver and pancreatic juice from pancreas, which will help in the further digestion of the food in the duodenum. Then onwards, ileum will start. It's a very coiled cavity, and it is the largest part of alimentary canal, that is ileum. Digestion as well as absorption of the digested food will take place over here. Ileum will open up into large intestine. Now large intestine, the anterior part of it would be short. Wide tube will be present. It runs straight and opens into cloaca. Now the main function of the large intestine is that it has to undergo the function of reabsorption. Reabsorption of the water from the dirt which is going to be out of the body, and to prepare the formation as well as storage of feces, that is to be removed out of the body, and that removal of feces will be done through cloaca. Cloaca is a small terminal part of the alimentary canal, and the last terminal end of it is called as vent or cloacal aperture. It is the final part through which the entire food which is not digested by the alimentary canal will be removed out of the body. You have been given the diagram for that. This is the entire diagram of alimentary canal starting from mouth to cloacal aperture. So this is all about digestive tract system of the frog.